Hello, and welcome back to another episode of It's Fine. Today, we're talking about a concept that haunts us all, and that is productivity. I know, it is a very scary topic after all. Do you not feel like enough? Do you make a to do list that is a mile long and feel disappointed when you can't accomplish everything, even though it was never possible in the first place? Do you feel like no matter what you do, you still haven't accomplished enough in the day to call the day productive, even though you don't really know what that means to you? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you may struggle with the concept of productivity debt. So, the first time that I learned about this topic was in the book Meditations for Mortals 4 Weeks to Embrace Your Limitations and Make Time for What Counts by Oliver Berkman. I highly recommend this book. I think that this is one of the best self help books I've read in my entire life. I think it's one of those books that's very easy to understand and comprehend, and it's also very easy to apply the concepts that he talks about in the book to your life. And if you're somebody who doesn't really have a lot of time to read each and every day, this book is set up very nicely in the fact that it's set up instead of being chapters, there is like a small passage that you read each and every day. And if I remember correctly, they're only like 3 or 4 pages long. Like it's nothing insane. So whenever I read this book, I would journal in the morning as I normally do. And then I would read the passage for the day. And then I would journal more if I felt that I needed to really reflect on what I had read, or I would just go about my day. But I think it was a phenomenal book, especially for me, because I learned a lot from this book that I ended up applying to my life. And one of those things was this concept of productivity debt. So he also has a blog post about this concept on his website. So if you want to go read that, you can. But the idea is basically that a lot of people start their day with this imagined productivity debt that throughout the day they're just trying to get rid of. It's like that vague feeling that you are behind in your life and you have to stay on top of things. Otherwise, you feel like the world is going to fall apart. And I very much struggled with this idea without realizing it. I'm somebody who is very obsessed with the idea of productivity. For a very long time, I kept myself insanely busy, and I still keep myself very busy, but I like to be busy. Like, I like to accomplish a lot, but for a while there, and even sometimes now, I still struggle with the fact that I have way too high of expectations for myself that are unmanageable. That there's no way I'm going to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish in that day. And I'm trying to be more realistic about my expectations for myself. We're going to talk about like taking breaks and how important taking breaks are. But I heard this concept once that changed the way I thought about taking breaks. And I don't remember who said it, but they essentially said that you're going to have to take breaks in your life. It's just a matter of, do you want to decide when you take breaks, or do you want your mind and your body to decide when you have to take breaks? Because if you overwork yourself at some point, you're going to have to take a break. It's inevitable. We're humans, we need breaks. So if you don't schedule breaks for yourself, your mind and your body is going to force you to at some point, whether it be because you get burnt out or you get super overwhelmed or you become like extremely exhausted. And for a while there, I feel like I was not taking control of when I was taking breaks. I was overworking myself to the point where I was basically forced to take breaks. And now I have finally realized that I need to really work on having balance in my life. And I feel like I have a much better balance now. But like I said, we'll get into that more later in this episode. So, back to the idea of productivity debt. Oliver Berkman proposes the idea that you should look at life where every day your balance starts at zero and everything that you do is what it is. Like it's an accomplishment, and you don't have to earn your spot on Earth. He also talks about the idea of creating a done list rather than a to-do list. So as you go through your day, you can write down what you accomplished no matter how small it is. Sometimes just getting out of bed is a small win that deserves to be celebrated. And at the end of the day, you can look at the list and reflect on all the things that you accomplished. Now, I will say I did try this concept for about a week or so, and I feel that it didn't help me. So I need to-do lists because sometimes I get very scatterbrained and I get sidetracked easily. So I need a to-do list so that way I actually remember what I have to get done in that day. And whenever I made a done list, to me, a lot of times I just got disappointed because there wasn't more on it. Now, normally, like I said, I struggle with having unrealistic expectations for myself. So, a lot of days I would look at the done list and feel like there should have been more on the list than there was. But again, that just goes back to me having unrealistic expectations for myself. So for some people, this done list may be very helpful for them because they may feel like they didn't really get that much done in the day, and then they look back at their done list and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I actually really did get a lot done during my day." I think this can be something that's very helpful for people. For me, it just wasn't really helpful for me. Some days it even felt like it was just something that was on my to-do list that I felt like I had to do that wasn't really benefiting me. And I really don't feel like, a done list should be something that lands on your to-do list. And even the same with to-do lists. So, when I was researching for this episode, I was finding so many articles about the best way to make a to-do list, and I feel like there's way too many hacks on how to make a to-do list. Like, frankly, I don't think your to-do list should be a task itself. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, my to-do lists are wildly chaotic, and for some reason this works for me. I feel like there's got to be a better way to accomplish this, but right now, the way my to-do lists are is at work, I try to write a to-do list for myself for the next day, the day before at work. So, like, the last thing I do before I leave work is I take like a sticky note or something and I write down everything that I know I need to accomplish the next day at work. So that's one to-do list. I also have a whiteboard on my fridge where I write a to-do list for all of the chores that I would like to accomplish the next day. Now, normally on that to-do list normally is a little unrealistically long, but the way I write it is I write everything that has to be accomplished that next day, and then I write a couple of tasks and I write underneath them if time permits. So the reason I do that is because sometimes we don't budget our time properly and sometimes we have more time than we think that we do. So I always like to write a couple of tasks that I could accomplish if I have enough time, but if I don't have enough time to accomplish them, it's not that big of a deal. They can just go on the to-do list for the next day. And then I also have a planner, and in my planner I normally write my like schedule for the day, so whether or not I have to go to work, whether or not I am going to go to the gym that day. If I have any appointments, that's where I write them in there. Like I said, this is kind of chaotic that I have like all these different to-do lists, but for some reason, this seems to be the thing that works the best for me. And like I said, I've been really trying to grapple with figuring out what a realistic expectation is for me. Like I said, I've gotten to the point where I just write a lot of stuff on my to-do list and then I try to basically decide what's the most important things that need to get done the next day, and then I write a couple of extra things just in case if I have extra time. They're on the list to remind me like, hey, if you have extra time you can do these things. Otherwise, I worry that if I don't have anything else written down, I'll just get like lazy and then won't do anything else productive during the day, and then I'll just like scroll on my phone because I won't know what else to do. And then the next day I'll be like, oh man, I could have done like these two chores that I forgot about. So, and sometimes like I'll even write things on the to do lists that are relaxing, again, to remind myself of what I can do that will relax me. Like, a lot of times I'll write on my to-do list for home that I should go take a walk. Like I said, I write my schedule what days I go to the gym. That for me is very relaxing. Sometimes I'll read a chapter of a book, because sometimes I'll just force myself to be super busy and super productive throughout the day, and then I won't give myself time for a break. So sometimes I literally have to schedule things in my day that are basically a break, things that bring me joy and make me happy and allow me to relax. I want to talk a little bit about like people on the internet when it comes to this concept of productivity, because it's so interesting to see the various different sides of the internet, like the different corners of the internet. You know, you got your hustle culture side where you have all these business people telling you that you need to maximize every single minute of every single day. But then you also have these other people who are like the slow living creators, the ones who are like, why can't I just be like a lizard and chill on a rock and sunbathe for the rest of my life? You know, like there's such a juxtaposition between those two types of people. And sometimes, you know, you can compare yourself to people online. Comparison is the thief of joy, after all. And you can see all these people who are maybe like accomplishing a ton. And you're like, why am I not accomplishing all of these things? Or you might see these like slow living creators and be like, why can't I just relax? Why is it so difficult for me to relax? Why can't I just enjoy like 5 minutes of peace? Why do I feel like I need to accomplish something each and every second of every single day? Not only that, but I don't know if you remember the like 5 to 9 trend. I believe there was like two different versions of this where people were showing their 5 to 9 before their 9 to 5 job, and some people who were showing their 5 to 9 after their 9 to 5 job. So basically, they were doing like a day in my life video, but it was more so just showing like their morning routine or their afternoon routine. And I remember watching some people's videos where they got an insane amount of stuff accomplished before their workday or after their workday. And then I would see people who would record videos talking about that and being like, well, I can't accomplish that much after my workday because my commute's an hour long, then I go home and make dinner, and then I'm so exhausted that I just want to go to bed. And they almost felt like guilty that their life didn't look like these creators' lives. And I know that we struggle with this concept of comparison a lot, especially when it comes to productivity and how much you are accomplishing in your life. I think the most important thing to remember is you got to figure out what's best for you. It's not always good to compare yourself to all these people, especially with the internet. You can compare yourself to millions and millions of people within seconds. And I've done that too. Like, I've watched these people who have this like insane 5 to 9 routine before their workday, and I felt bad because half the time I tell myself I'm going to get up super early and do all this stuff, and I never do it. I end up laying in bed, and then I wake up slightly late, and then I'm running around trying to get ready for the workday, and then I make it to work just on time. But sometimes you got to do that. Or sometimes like that just works for you. Like, maybe I needed the extra sleep, especially because I'm somebody who struggles with being able to like sleep throughout the night. So sometimes, yes, I need to sleep in a little bit, and then, okay, I might have to race around in the morning so that way I make it to work, but maybe that was the best thing for me that day. Maybe I'm not somebody who can get up at 4 a.m. and go run a marathon and then, make a buffet for breakfast and then still have 30 minutes to read and journal and then go to work. That just might not work for me. It definitely would not, obviously. I couldn't even run a mile. Yeah, I can't even run a mile. I was going to say I can't even run a marathon, but like I literally like struggle to run a mile. I normally have to take walk breaks, but let alone run a marathon in the morning. Sometimes it can be interesting to see other people's routines because maybe you can learn something from them, but don't fall into that trap of comparing yourself to other people and then feeling bad because your life doesn't look like theirs when we're all different and we have to figure out what works best for us. There's no like blueprint on how to be the perfect human, especially when it comes to trying to figure out how to spend your time and how to be the most productive person that you can be. Plus, not only that, but accomplishing more doesn't really tend to make us feel better anyways. According to the article, Why Accomplishment Often Leaves Us Feeling Empty, published by Psychology Today, they found that compliments, prizes, awards, good grades, money, and other sources of external validation makes us feel great for a little while, but ultimately they are not filling or satisfying because they're not reliable. They can be given but taken away just as easily, and it feels like there's never enough. And this article goes on to say that the only way to feel accomplished is through self worth, which I completely agree with. Like I said, whenever I was younger, I kept myself like insanely busy. For example, in high school, I went to school and I took all of these like AP classes. So all my classes were like arguably difficult. And not only that, but I was in band and I was in choir and I was in marching band and I participated in plays and musicals both at my school and at my community theater. Like I was constantly busy, constantly running around. I also had a part-time job at the same time. So I was insanely busy all the time. And then in college, I was also fairly busy because the first 2 years when I went to an in person institution, I had 3 part time jobs on top of going to school. And then when I started going to school fully online, I had a full time job at the same time. And I accomplished so much when I was younger, but a lot of the times it made me feel good for like a day or two. And then I was on to the next thing. Sometimes it didn't even make me feel that great. Like, I remember when I got my college diploma, I didn't even necessarily feel accomplished. I felt like that was something I had to do. So I didn't even really get that sense of like gratification. I more so just felt a sense of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, yes, I do feel accomplished now. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm very proud that I got that degree, especially with working for as much as I did during the time that I was going to school. But I remember, like, at one point, I was almost sad that I didn't feel more excited, that it more so just felt like I fulfilled an expectation. I feel like that's the best way to describe the way that I felt, which is very sad looking back, just because, like, getting a college degree is not that easy, and I should have never acted like it was an expectation. It took away some of the joy of receiving my degree. Later on, I was more so able to feel that joy, and I do more so now. Like, I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to get a degree, especially with the fact that whenever I went to college, that's when COVID hit, and that was really difficult. And then on top of that, I was working all of these extra jobs, and I worked so hard where I was able to pay off all of my college debt. So I'm debt free as well. That was the big reason why I had so many jobs when I was in school, because I had this goal of making sure that I could be debt free. And I think I paid off all my debt within 6 months after graduating. It might have even been sooner than that. Somewhere around there. But regardless, like, I was able to pay off all of my debt. And that was a huge accomplishment. Yeah, I am proud of that. And I deserve to be proud of that. I should have never acted like that was some sort of like expectation of like, well, I got my degree. That was what I was supposed to do. So good job. What are we going to do next? No, I deserve to take some time and actually enjoy my accomplishment and feel proud for it. And I know a lot of people feel like this. I know a lot of people that they feel like they have to accomplish so much in life because they feel like it's required of them. And it's not. It's not required of you. It's great if you accomplish a lot in life. That's awesome. Like, I'm so thankful that I worked so hard and accomplished so much in my life. Like, I'm not sitting here acting like this is like a bad thing. Like, I'm thankful for my work ethic. I'm glad that I am somebody who does prioritize like work and accomplishing things in my life, because especially now that I have more balance in my life, I have the capacity to be grateful for it, to actually like get to sit with the enjoyment of accomplishing something. And it took a lot of work to get here. It really did. But I'm glad that I'm finally at the point now where I can actually enjoy the feeling of accomplishing something. And it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm required to be busy and to accomplish a lot. I still like to. I choose to work very hard, but it feels better when it feels like a choice, not a requirement. And I mean, we all know somebody who constantly overworks themselves, and they're so concerned with being productive. Maybe that's you. I know for me in my life, the biggest example of that kind of person in my life was always me. Always me. I did know some other people as well who had this problem where they always felt like they had to be productive. They always felt like they had to be working. They would sort of deprioritize relationships and taking breaks because they felt like they had to work very hard. But in my life, I feel like I was the prime example of that, which that is, I think, the one thing I do regret about being so obnoxiously obsessed with the idea of productivity was the fact that I feel like a lot of times I didn't prioritize my relationships as much as I should have. I wish I would have been a better friend whenever I was in high school. Not that I was necessarily a bad friend, but like I remember there was some of my friends that stopped inviting me to hang out with them because they were like, "Well, you're always so busy, so you just say no anyway." And that hurt, but like they weren't wrong for saying that. They weren't wrong for saying that at all. Because a lot of times I would say no. Because, oh, I had all this homework, or oh, I had all these extracurricular activities, or whatever, whatever excuse I had. Luckily, a lot of my friends were in the same activities as me, so it made it easier to spend time with them. And again, I wouldn't say that I was like necessarily a bad friend, but I wish I would have prioritized the relationships in my life a little bit more when I was younger. I also wish I would have taken some more breaks in my life. Not even necessarily anything major, but like just allowing myself to have a little bit more time to just relax and take breaks because taking breaks is productive. And it makes you more productive as a result. So if you were somebody who's super worried because you feel like you can't take a break because you're not being productive enough and you have too much to do and you feel like the world is going to fall apart if you don't get everything done in the day, you might want to listen to this because taking breaks truly is productive. So according to Harvard Business Review, they reported that the cost of being always on and doing it well is high. More than half of employees reported feeling burnout, according to a recent survey from Aflac. Not only that, but they reported that engagement has taken the opposite turn and is declining among the U.S. workers. Alarmingly, both high burnout and low engagement rates are associated with hindered performance. They also reported that pausing work rather than pushing through it might help with both aspects. In analyzing more than 80 studies, they confirmed that pausing work throughout the day can improve well being and can also help with getting more work done. Counter to the popular narrative of working long work hours, their research suggests that taking breaks within work hours not only does not detract from performance, but it can help boost it. So, literally, taking breaks is productive because if you do not take breaks, you will slowly become burnt out, and then it will be more difficult for you to actually accomplish things in your life, and therefore, you become less productive. And while researching for this episode, I did stumble across a lot of articles that talk about how to take the most effective break, and I don't even want to talk about that because I think if you stress yourself out over how to take a break, it's going to end up being counterproductive, especially if you are somebody who is obsessed with the idea of like optimizing your life and making every second count. I feel like you could easily fall into the trap of trying to figure out the best way to take a break that is not actually a break, and then it becomes counterproductive, and then you ended up just wasting your time anyway. So I think that you have to find what works for you. So for me, like at work, taking breaks looks like taking some time to talk to some of my coworkers. Like, especially because I work in radio, I'm constantly like talking to the wall all day. So sometimes it's nice to talk to like an actual person, you know, like like I love my job and I think it is like literally like one of the best jobs ever. I love it. But obviously like sitting there and talking to the wall for hours on end and like sitting in front of a computer and like editing audio, while it is relaxing to me, yes, obviously sometimes I need a break and sometimes it's nice to go have like a 5-minute conversation with one of my coworkers. It feels like that to me is like a great form of a break in my workday. Not only that, but sometimes like I have an Apple Watch and on the Apple Watch there is this like mindfulness app, I guess you could call it, where you can set it to where it forces you to just like sit and breathe for a couple of minutes. Sometimes I'll do that as well because it's a nice, like, very quick break, gives me the mental reset that I need, and then I can continue with my work day. And then outside of work, I normally like to take a walk or a drive. Those two options really seem to allow me to truly relax, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Or I like to go to the gym as well. I don't know why, but something about going to the gym is just like wildly relaxing for me. I think it's because my mind is constantly racing, and when I'm at the gym, my mind is almost like peaceful and quiet. And it is so nice. And I know some people who feel the same way about it. I mean, obviously, not everybody has that experience, but I do know a lot of people who have that experience with exercise in general. And it's absolutely wonderful. And that's a big reason why I prioritize going to the gym. Like, yes, I'm glad that it benefits me in regards to my physical health. And I will be honest, like, now that I've exercised for a few years, I used to really hate my body, and I don't hate it anymore. I actually like really like the way I look, and a big part of that is because like I've put in so much work to look the way that I do now, and it gives me that sense of accomplishment. Um, but also just it for some reason like helped me feel more secure with myself, both with my body, the way I look, and also my mind as well because it allows me to have like an hour a day to just kind of relax, focus on moving my body, and it calms my mind down and my mind doesn't race as much. Now, like I know some people, like one of my friends loves to watch TV. Like that's the way that he relaxes. To me, watching TV or videos doesn't really make me feel relaxed. It almost makes me feel like I'm distracting my mind from my like thoughts and feelings and emotions. And I don't know why, but that's just how I feel. So to me, that's not really relaxing. Like I said, it feels like more of a distraction. Like if I'm really stressed and I watch TV, I feel distracted for that time frame that I'm watching TV, and then when I stop, I immediately feel stressed again. I don't know why. I cannot explain that. I'm not a therapist, so I don't know. But that just doesn't work for me. But maybe that works for you. And whenever I'm really stressed, I also can't read books. I'm too overwhelmed. There's too much going on in my mind. I can't focus on the book. That doesn't even distract me. It's like I try to read the book and my mind distracts me from trying to read the book. So that doesn't necessarily help me. But again, I do know some people where books for them are super relaxing and it allows them to like basically escape their mind and allows them to relax in the ways that they need to relax. But again, I think that just goes back to figuring out what works for you. Like I said, I mean, you can read all of those articles about the best way to take a break, the most effective way to take a break, and that might help you. I mean, that might give you the resource that you need to figure out how to take the best break for you. For me, I just know that it's going to overwhelm me. It's going to make me feel like I need to optimize my breaks, and it's not going to help me. I just need to figure out the best way to take a break by trial and error. I don't know what works best for you. And that's something that you have to figure out because the only person that's going to know what works best for you is you. And you may not even know that yet, but that just means you have to take the time to figure it out. So I just want to close out this episode by reminding you that every day is a new day. But that doesn't mean that there is this new productivity debt that you have to try to pay off. You are enough as you are. Let me say that again. You are enough as you are. You may have things that you need to get done, but don't let them consume you. Just do your best because that's all you can really do. And if you're truly doing your best and you're still disappointed with yourself, then I would argue that you have unrealistic expectations of yourself that you need to reevaluate. Which that can be a very hard pill to swallow. I mean, it took me years to like truly understand how unrealistic my expectations were for myself. And I still sometimes make mistakes and set unrealistic expectations for myself. I still struggle with that. I'm still trying to figure out how to set more realistic expectations. So, like I said, that might be something that you need to like really sit and reflect on. Like, are your expectations for yourself realistic? Do you expect too much of yourself? Or maybe you even expect too little of yourself. Maybe you're somebody who judges yourself too harshly in the way that you feel like you can't accomplish as much as you actually can. A lot of people have that problem as well, where they have so much self-doubt and they feel like they're not capable of accomplishing the things that they want to accomplish. I mean, sometimes you just got to sit down, you got to reflect, and you got to figure out what's realistic for you in that period of your life because your expectations are probably going to fluctuate throughout your life because you grow and you change and you develop new skills and you learn new things. It's an ongoing process. And I think it's something that is very important to think about and figure out for yourself. I feel like productivity truly does haunt a lot of people. This concept haunts us because we spend a lot of our lives trying to figure out what it is that we want to accomplish, what we feel like we should accomplish, what our expectations are for ourselves, but also what expectations others have of us. A lot of people wrestle with that throughout the entirety of their lives. So I think it's just important to figure out what you want to accomplish, what you can accomplish, rather, so that way productivity doesn't have to haunt you. So that way, that's not something that has to stress you out. And if anything, you can turn it into a positive in your life. So that way, you can actually really enjoy the things that you're doing in your life and reap the benefits of your accomplishments. But of course, at the end of the day, whatever the case may be, it's fine.